r/askreddit. What's something that only losers brag about? How many important people they claim to know in order to impress others. I've been in the same room as hundreds of professional athletes, musicians, and politicians over the years. Technically a stadium is just a big room, right? I was just saying that to Jamila Jamil the other day. Dave was always bragging about all the people he knows to his co-workers until one day his boss loses it and tells him to prove it. If he really knows all these famous people he could produce evidence, right? Dave shows his boss the numerous pictures on his phone hobnobbing with celebrities and politicians. His boss calls bullshit, anyone can use Photoshop. Dave calls someone on his phone and hands it to his boss, who hears the unmistakable voice of Morgan Freeman asking how long has it been since he and Dave had dinner together. Again, his boss doesn't believe him and says it could be anyone on the line. Dave thinks for a moment and asks if he has any plans that weekend. Dave then flies his boss and himself out to Vatican City where a crowd is gathering in front of the Vatican. Dave's boss is jostled around the crowd and loses Dave in the confusion. Suddenly, the crowd draws and he looks up to see the Pope himself standing next to a waving Dave. Just then, an old man gets his attention and motions towards the balcony saying, "Who the fuck is that guy up there standing next to Dave?" I was a dog walker for this super rich lobbyist guy who actually did have an impressive career, but holy shit he was also the most insecure little turd in the world. Every time he got any kind of invitation or program to something that seemed exclusive, he would legit frame it and hang it between photos of his kids and shits in his foyer. My favorite was a wedding invitation. The couple was nobody, known. The wedding wasn't anything remarkable or historic or famous. The couple wasn't particularly close to him, so this wasn't a sentimental thing. He didn't even attend the wedding. It's just that the wedding took place in Nigeria, we are in the US, so he thought it was extremely exotic and brag-worthy that he was once invited to travel to a country that is not generally a top 10 destination for many Americans. Edit. Oh. He would also purchase copies of famous, but not too famous, artworks and frame them and pretend they were originals. Like a Picasso but a really small one that is still recognizable but isn't like the most obvious signature Picasso piece, because I guess it'd be too obvious it was fake if he had Love Eye on his wall. I know they were all fakes because he left the eBay auction printouts sitting around and the listings clearly marked them as janky reprints, but if you asked he claimed they were legit. Lots of people were the smartest kid in their high school, man. And most claiming to be the smartest in their high school were not actually the smartest. Whenever I feel bad about myself my husband tries to make it better by saying, "But you were the valedictorian of your high school." Oh, you mean the high school that didn't even offer AP classes because there wasn't enough demand for it? The very same school that was almost taken over by the government because our standardized test scores were too low? And how about the fact that I graduated in a class of only 69 people? Yeah, I guess I am smarter than those other 68 idiots. Sorry everyone else I went to high school with. How mean they were to someone. They always tell a long rambling story about how dumb someone was and how they told them off. I once went on a first date with somebody who told me a story about how they yelled at a developmentally disabled guy in his self-help group that morning. He was trying to impress me? There was no second date. And he was confused about it. This was my ex-boyfriend. Whenever something went the slightest bit wrong, he would go on the warpath to make himself the biggest pain in the ass possible until it got fixed. One time our bedroom fan broke. It was a box fan he'd bought at Home Depot like 6 years before. He went to HD and screamed at customer service until they gave him a new one. Despite having gotten 6 years of almost constant use out of it, he kept it on 24/7 for the white noise and circulation. Then he called everyone he knew and spent hours bragging about how he showed those cheap bastards at Home Depot. Completely toxic. A lad I know told me of some kid he went to school with who was getting abused by his dad, sexually. So the guy decided with him and his mates to break the kid's leg for being a loser for letting his dad sexually abuse him, and he thought it was hilarious. I just couldn't understand how that is funny. Oh, people showing videos of people getting beaten up for no reason. The same guy showed me a video of a drunk girl who walked into the wrong house. This convo was in the kitchen for some reason, and after they told her she is in the wrong house, They beat the shit out of her for a laugh. Fucking insanity. I once went on a date with a guy I met on OkCupid who told me proudly how many other dates he had lined up that week. Just why? Was it some weird ass attempt to look desirable? Had he somehow forgotten that I was already on a date with him? There wasn't a second date, which his busy schedule was probably extremely thankful for. It's 100% trying to look desirable and create urgency. He was hoping you would hear that and think that you better get to him now before the crowd does. Same deal as commercials that say supplies are going fast or this deal won't last long, and just like in that kind of commercial, the deal is never as good as they're trying to make it look. Yikes. I try all I can to not mess things up on a first date and yet struggle get a few over years. Either this guy is lying or he has something else going for him. I went on a first date with a guy who apologized that he wasn't chatting that much, but he'd been on an amazing first date the day before and used all his material. Reader, it did not make me want him. He was also low-key a dick in general and thought insulting me was good chat. Their karma on Reddit. I have a lot, by the way. The real measure is karma per month, or KPM. It's not so much what they brag about as it is how often. My ex bragged about his achievements when he was in his 20s. All the freaking time. He is 60. All it does is continually prove that he has done absolutely nothing for 40 years. Big L. Honestly, not doing anything for 40 years is probably more of a braggable achievement. I'm upvoting not only because I agree but also because your answer indicates you're in your 50s or 60s, and that makes me feel less alone in Reddit. What did he brag about though? Like most, my best stories come from when I was younger and made tons of bad decisions. All my achievements since then are good but just aren't really as entertaining. In my experience, there are only really two types of people who brag about their clothing. The people who brag about how expensive an item was, or the people who brag about how cheap the item was. I wouldn't go so far as to call the first group losers, but the latter group tend to be much more fun to hang around with. Third type, girl who has a dress with pockets. Disagree only on one tiny point. Yes, bragging about how expensive clothes are is annoying. Ironically, it's cheap. But when someone brags about the cheap knockoff can be annoying. 20 years back, I would show up to a family party in a nice outfit, completely not drawing attention of my own to what I was wearing. Just fitted nicely in pretty clothes, sharing time with loved one. And a week later, my sister would call me and say, "What did you spend on that outfit last week?" "I just got something similar from Kohl's for 10 bucks. Haha. K, good for you, that you obsessed over this for a week and your only point to calling me is to brag that you got a cheap knockoff for less money. Slow clap for making me feel like I don't like you very much as a person. I don't get bragging about the price of clothing. Like, I have a really good wool scarf that was expensive but it's warm and comfortable and I love it, but I'd be a little embarrassed if my friends knew I paid so much for something as silly as a scarf." Getting the highest score in golf. The truest answer. I once received an award for most honest at a company golf tournament. My score was more than twice as high as the next highest. People who don't like them. Extra points if they actually call them haters. Hatters make me famous XD. How great they were at high school sports long after graduating. What if you've scored 4 touchdowns in a single game? Back in '82, I used to throw a pigskin a quarter mile. Also they're 4.0 in high school with a 2.8 college GPA. Does this come included with a faded, washed out varsity jacket? Insisting on how real or brutally honest they are. That's really just a positive spin on I don't consider other people before I say things, or indeed ever. I tell it like it is. No, you don't. You tell it like you think it is. Big difference. Used to be like this until I met and married my wife. She's taught me that people like that usually can't handle someone being honest with them. And it was true. I would usually have no regards for hers or other people's emotions or thoughts when saying anything, but God forbid if someone was like that to me. I would get very frustrated and flustered with having to face my actions. So lesson learned. It is dating site app code for I am a raging bitch douche. How much they can drink. My brother would do this in high school, and fast forward 25 years later, He'd still do it when sitting with extended family on Thanksgiving. Most holidays would end with him passing out on the couch or him pissing his pants around 6 p.m. I can drink several liters of water in one day. My pee is completely devoid of color. How he lost tons and tons of money. Just dude, get a life. Dude, I lost so much money at the casino this month. Nice. Dude, I have a life ruining inability to control my impulses too. Wall Street buds. How much booze they can drink or weed they can smoke. I hate people who think that alcohol, marijuana, vaping is a substitute for a personality. It's not, and it makes you look like an incredibly boring person. Being an alpha. We had a housewarming party years ago. A family friend was there and was telling me how to grill the burgers. He kept on and finally just kind of grabbed the spatula when I set it down and took over, saying, "It's just that alpha dog mentality. Cool story, but now you're just my personal chef." So, I got to enjoy playing games and hanging out while my personal chef sweated over a grill in the Texas summer. If you need to tell people, then you aren't the alpha. How much they haven't slept. Like, cool bro. You're an adult. Go to bed earlier, ya doofus. As someone who struggles with insomnia, I don't understand how this is something to be proud of. I hate the days when I get little to no sleep. Going to jail. Unless you were a political prisoner fighting for freedom in a totalitarian state. Ignorance. Lol, I don't know that. That's nerd shit. Shit. I don't know that shit. That's some educated shit. Motherfucker, why would I know that? You think I know anything about that shit? Dude, I dunno dude. That's fucked up dude. Anybody who's proud as fuck that they don't know anything, well, they're not a winner. I haven't read a book in 15 years. Goodness, what a fascinating individual you are. I'll tag onto this to say not liking things. I can't even listen to the radio these days. Music is so shit these days I can't even listen to it. Oh my god, you can actually drink that piss they call Budweiser? After I started drinking real beer, I can't even drink that at all. This is just who I am, and I don't need to apologize for it. Sorry, not sorry. Only God can judge me. If you can't handle me at my worst, blah blah blah. They always have the most cliched justifications and dismissals for being assholes. It really depends on the this. You like horses and pink dresses, Julie. We're in our 30s. Grow up, gosh. It's so childish. This is just who I am, and I don't need to apologize for it. Like, that would be acceptable. Or blaming their zodiac sign. Having the tallest tower after a national tragedy. And he was wrong. Not reading books. Have to admit, when I was a teenager, 12-18, I had little interest in reading books other than when needed to study. But damn, since I started reading books I found out that it's really addicting at times. IQ. Tearing down others for their successes. As a certified loser I must admit that I brag about my ability to type acai faces. That's not acai, that's Unicode. Chris Rock. I take care of my kids. You are supposed to, you dumbass. Low expectation motherfucker. What, you want a cookie? Their side hose. Cheating is gross. Fuck off. People who brag that they don't drink water. Never touch the stuff. Fish fug in it. How little they study in school. The girls in my class used to say things like OMG I never study, OMG I'm gonna fail so hard, OMG I only got a B I'm so bad, so on. And then proceed to get an A. Really sucked when I only got like an E after hearing that. BTW I live in Sweden so an E is acceptable but you can do better. Salary. It's fine to be proud of being successful, but bragging about the money you make, or, more often, lying, just makes you sound emotionally retarded. There are some people on Reddit who make over 6 figures a year and don't do anything, so I've read. They literally just sit at their desk. I want that job. Desperately. Dick size. Getting into fights. I could totally kick that guy's ass. Parking violations. Maggots on their sleeves. Shaving with mace in the dark. Saving food stamps. Burning down the trailer park. V-Bucks. Treating people like shit who doesn't deserve it. High school anything once they are over 20. Their race. Being a certain race is not a personality, skill, or otherwise positive or negative trait. If the best thing you can think of about yourself is your race, you are a shit human. Edit. Some clarification. There is a difference between being proud of your race as a reaction to others saying your race is shameful, and bragging about your race. One is elevating a trait from negative to neutral, the other is elevating it from neutral to positive. My initial statement here is that there is nothing inherently positive or negative about your race. The same can be said about any trait which you have no control over, be it sexuality, gender, height, dick length, boob size, or IDK, whether you are left or right-handed. A marginalized group is fighting against people who say their group is wrong or shameful for what they are when they show pride in being a part of that group. A non-marginalized group is trying to instill a sense of superiority when showing pride in being a part of that group. For example, there exists in the world black supremacy groups. I think those groups are losers just the same as a white supremacist group. However, that is very different from a black person saying they are proud of their black heritage. One is saying they are better because of their race, the other is saying their race doesn't make them any worse than anyone else. Ultimately, I think being proud of anything you have no control over is stupid. Consider this, if you won the lottery, would you be proud to have won the lottery? Winning the lottery isn't an accomplishment, it's random chance. The same can be said for any given genetic trait. Bro, I'm so wasted. How drunk someone is, as you get older it sounds even stupider. Being an asshole and owning it. If you accept by yourself that you are horrible, better yourself. I used to bench 315. No you didn't. Even if you did, I don't care. Let me get back to my workout, thanks. Pretty much anything. Bragging is largely a sign of insecurity. You try to highlight aspects of yourself that you think are appealing in an effort to overshadow other aspects of yourself that you are extremely insecure about. A not so good looking guy might brag about his car or his salary, because he is insecure about this appearance. Whereas a good looking guy might do the exact opposite. At school. 1. How his dad could beat up everyone else's dad. 2. How his had a bike made of titanium that weighed 3 pounds. This was in 1970s. 3. How he had a military grade digital watch. Again 1970s. At university. 4. How the woman in the picture, cut out from a magazine and framed, was his girlfriend back home. 5. How his second-hand TR7 was better than a Porsche. 6. How his 2ii degree was better than a first. NB different losers. How many girls they've been with.